Looking to learn life lessons without going through the experience? You've come to the right place. Welcome to Hidden Struggles with your host, Lady C.
Hey, I want to welcome you to Hidden Struggles. And in this episode, it's all about being an advocate for the elderly. Now, as a caretaker, I had the pleasure, I'll say, to care for my elderly parents and to, make sure that they were being taken care of, and I was advocating for their health and their well-being. And everyone at some point in their life is going to end up in a situation if they don't, if other things happen where they, something happens tragic. But there may be a time when you may need someone to actually advocate for your health and your well-being. And I learned so much from this process, and just a lot of things that I never thought about that could happen, did happen. I mean, when you think about how you live your life and you think that you're going to have all of your ducks in a row, you're going to have your house paid for, you're going to stack as much money in the bank as you can possibly, save. And then one day you wake up and you're being hit with a circumstance that's totally foreign, something that you didn't even expect, right? This is the kind of stuff that happens to people all the time. And so what I had to learn how to do in this case is not to so much prepare myself as to what I'm going to acquire and how I'm going to save and make sure all these other things are taken care of, but I had to change my mind. I had to, in my mind, be willing to accept what comes, because we can't prepare for what we don't know is going to happen. No one can really make their life and say, I'm going to control my fate. And so a lot of times we have to look at it. We got to prepare our mind and how we're going to deal with the situation when we're faced with it, because we can't prepare everything in our lives the way we are told that we can in some aspects. So that's what I'm trying to just push this out there to you, because you just never know what's going to happen to you from one day to the next. But if you're mentally prepared, you could pretty much deal with almost anything. But if you're not mentally prepared and you don't realize that your life is going to take a drastic change, that's when you can end up in a situation that you really don't want to be in. And I had that experience with my dad. And of course, I'm so glad to say that he's still with me. And I enjoy him every day, talking to him on the phone. And I don't know what I would do without him. As I say, hey, Dad, you're like my therapist, because I say, you're the mom that I no longer have. Because where anything that went on in my life, it was like I would call my mom. Mom, I'm on the phone, calling Mom, telling Mom all about whatever happened to me, whether it be at work, whether it be whatever it was going on. My mom knew all about it. And so this right here, this little gadget right here, this little iPhone, smartphone, this gadget is what keeps me in contact with my dad, because my dad is in assisted living. Thank goodness he is living as an independent. And so he has like a lot of activities he can go to. They prepare 3 meals a day. I mean, where he's at, he's really in a nice facility, because they even have a area where they can go watch movies. He gets to play bingo, just all kind of things he can do. And the other night he texted me and he said, it's like 1:00 in the morning, mind you. And so Daddy sends me a text. And so I'm looking at my text. I'm like, what's going on at 1:00 in the morning? So he sends me a text saying that he's having problems with his phone, and he couldn't charge it. So he was like down to 7%. Now, when I tell you this phone is his connection to the outside world, I mean it. This is my dad's connection to the outside world. And so this, we can never, ever, get rid of this his phone, right? And so, of course, the next morning when I got up, I called him, and I talk to my dad every day. And when I say we talk every day, sometimes we talk 2 and 3 times a day, probably more than that, actually, if you hear him tell it. So I was able to get on the phone, got a 3-way conversation going with my dad and his cell phone provider. And so a couple days later, we had Daddy's phone up and going. And so, that's why I want to talk about this episode as well, because not only do you have to have your mind right when something goes on and how you're going to handle it, but you also want to make sure that if you mentally can, still know what's going on around you, you better have your connection to the outside world like my father. Because, he's able to be on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and where he is not with family and everything, this keeps him busy. It keeps him occupied. It gives him something to do. And I really think that it keeps his mind sharp. But my running joke is, because I call him every day, it's like we're just in contact all the time. It's like being in contact with your family and talking to somebody all the time. It's like it keeps them going. It gives them something to look forward to. It gives them something to how they can use their mind. Because we solve problems. Me and my dad, we solve problems. I'm I have another channel, another YouTube channel with my husband on critical thinkers. And then I also have a YouTube channel where I'm teaching computers. So I'm all over the place on this channel, on this internet, teaching everything I know. And so my dad will be the person that will watch a video, provide me with feedback, tell me what needs to be changed, what worked, what didn't. And so, if he didn't have his phone, how will we communicate? Now, mind you, I ain't telling the whole story, because my dad not only has his iPhone, but he also has a laptop and an iPad. And then about 6 months ago, he was asking me about whether or not he should get a Macintosh. And I'm like, oh my goodness, you plan on doing videos now? But I told him, I said, honey, if I was where you were, I said, I would be rocking a podcast, blasting all my experiences from my room, and I'd be having a good old time. So, me and my dad, we'd be having so much fun, laughing and talking about stuff, And so, but the technology thing, I guess I get it from him, because he was the one that actually got me on Facebook. I remember when Facebook first came out, and my dad was like, you're not on Facebook? Because I think I was on MySpace at the time. And even though I love computers as I teach, and I've been teaching for 20 years, and my dad was like, you're not on Facebook? You should see all these people on Facebook. You're missing out, this and that. So I finally got on Facebook, And he's forever getting me going, getting me out here to connect with people. In fact, quiet as it's kept, my dad is the reason why we're on YouTube today, doing our Critical Thinkers channel. Because he was the one that discovered the ex-witnesses online and called me on the phone and told me how come we don't have our channel up and going, and how we need to get up here and help these people out, because with all of our experience, then we could probably, throw our hat in the ring too. So I really do appreciate my dad and how he's able to, share his life experiences with me, give me ideas on how I can, forge ahead and be successful. And then I'm able to look out for his well-being and everything as well. And so these are the kind of relationships that we really need to have with our elders, because too many times we have these generation gaps, and people have a tendency to think that you're not in my group because you're not the same age as I am and you had different experiences than I did. But I feel like the wisdom that my father provides is so excellent, because he's lived his life. My dad, he's made mistakes, and he shares those mistakes with me. And he tells me, if you could just listen to what I'm saying, because I don't want you to do the same thing I did or miss out on some opportunity. And in fact, that's the reason why I came up with this Hidden Struggles channel, because it was all about, I said, you know what? I said, we had been through so much being Jehovah's Witnesses, and we had, giving up so much of our life and our youth was just thrown to the wind, out knocking on doors and trying to, be bringing people into the organization and all that kind of stuff. And we just didn't live our life. We didn't live our best life, and then we wasted so much time. So I said, how can I give back, not just in the XJW community when it comes to, dealing with the truth about the truth, knowing that the religion lied to us and they told us all these things, making us believe stuff that wasn't true. And I said, well, how else can I give back? Well, I can give back by coming out on the Hidden Struggles platform. And my tagline is learn life lessons without going through the experience. And then just sharing my experience about how we were able to make it to freedom out of the watchtower and how we landed on our feet after doing so. And so that's why, this episode is really, geared towards my elders, the elderly, and advocating for people. Because you got to keep in mind, you are going to be older at one point and you're going to need somebody to advocate for you. What are you doing to prepare yourself? Now, I know previously I just said you can't control what happens to you. You cannot control, where you're going to be. I mean, because I had to move my parents here with me. I had to move them from out of state to be here near me. In fact, we moved them in with us, me and my husband. So my dad, here he is, had his house paid for. And he's living in an area where there's no family. So of course, here we are. What do we do? I mean, I can't quit my job and move to where he's at. And he's living in an area where the snow is bad, the weather's bad, and, trying to be there taking care of my mom, because it's actually my mom that had gotten sick. And so, how do you think he felt? Knowing that he did everything right, paid off his house, he was debt-free, the Dave Ramsey thing, the 12 baby steps, all that stuff accomplished. Mom gets sick, and it's just the two of them living in this area that he can't take care of her by himself. So naturally, family has to come in, take charge, and, do what you got to do to help your family. Because, you can't leave them in that situation. And so that was really, really hard for my dad. And I don't think he was really prepared mentally to deal with that. And that's why every time I think about it, I would ask myself, I put myself in their shoes and I'd say, how would I handle that? If that was to happen to me, I got my house paid off, I did all these things right, now all of a sudden somebody's coming to get me, packing up all my goods, carting me off to some other place that I really don't want to go to. How would I deal with that? And that's what I'm saying. We have to get our minds right as to how we're going to deal with these issues. And so you can't even begin to realize, where you could be or what you could be going through. And so I just say, another thing I like to say in this video is to enjoy your life. Now, don't enjoy your life to the point where you don't plan for the future and you don't plan for things to happen, because thank goodness Daddy had planned, and he was debt free and he had, everything in place there. So we weren't dealing with, him being saddled with debt and stuff like that. So thank goodness. So, if you ever got something like that going on and somebody has to take care of you, not only that, but you're trying to also figure out how you're going to pay a caretaker. Because when my mom got to a point where we could no longer care for her, we had to put her in a facility. And that's the other thing that was it just ate me up. Knowing that I could not, take care of my mom anymore. And we had to put her in a facility because we could not handle her condition. So that was very, very hard. And where my mom really, iPhone wouldn't have done her any good. There are people that are in facilities where, having a smartphone or a tablet or something is going to be a situation that they're going to need that. And that's what I'm saying. Make sure that you have your family members, if they're able, because everybody is not able to be walking around with a smartphone and be engaged. But for those of you who can, be sure that you learn how to use technology, because you never know when you're going to need it. You never know when you're going to have to use it as your lifeline. And there's people right now that's listening to this broadcast right now that probably, you're probably not even in a facility. You're probably not even in a nursing home. And you don't have a smartphone or a tablet or some kind of way to connect with people. And so I strongly encourage you to, think twice about that. Think twice about, getting some kind of way to connect with people, because that's what you need. You need to be able to connect with people. And sometimes, it's not always about watching TV. I mean, there's only so much Wendy Williams and all that. I know she's not on TV anymore, but there's only so much of that you can, consume in one day, So I just want to come out and kind of like talk about, that issue, to advocate for our elders, make sure that we're taking care of them. And while you're taking care of them, by all means, of course, you got to take care of yourself first. Because as they say, you got to put the oxygen mask on you first. So guess what? Guess what that means? That means that if you don't have a smartphone, it ain't got to be an iPhone. It doesn't have to be an iPhone. It ain't got to be a Samsung. It could be a throwaway. Just have something that's going to connect you to people. I'm not telling you to go out and break the bank or anything like that, but I am telling you to put that oxygen mask on your face and get up to speed with technology, because we don't want people to be saying we couldn't contact you because you didn't have a phone. Okay? So that's all I'm saying. And get on over to Creative Studio 101. I'm going to put the link in the description below. And I want you to get on over to my YouTube channel, because I'm over there teaching computers and telling y'all how to break it down. And some of the things I'm going to be teaching people about is how to get on a Zoom conference and stuff, either Zoom or some kind of a streaming. I know a lot of people are already on these platforms, but I had a friend call me the other day saying that she had to have her husband connect her to Zoom. And so she was a little frustrated. And she said, you know what? I'm going to have to learn this computer. And I said, yes, you are. Because there's no reason for you not to be computer savvy or computer literate when we got the free internet out here. Well, not free, because you got to pay for your service, but you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, this has been Lady C. I have enjoyed having you in my audience. And I'll see you on the next episode.
Thanks so much for listening to Hidden Struggles with your host, Lady C. This program was sponsored by Critical Thinkers, online at hiddenstruggle.com. Feel free to send an email to info@hiddenstruggle.com, and we'll catch you next time on Hidden Struggles. The views and opinions of our guests do not necessarily reflect the opinions of Critical Thinkers.